Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Bill Spencer, Teams Engineering, and I'm pleased today to be joined by Eunice Lowe, Ramesh Manian, and Danny Garber, who will be presenting the AI Fast Start, how to be using Microsoft Teams for your collaborative AI projects. Take it away, Eunice.
Thanks, Bill. Welcome, everybody. My name is Eunice Lowe, as Bill stated. The purpose of this webinar today is really to focus on what you can do in Teams to bring AI into your Teams apps. So we're going to be fairly focused on what you can and cannot do in Teams, and also what is available in Teams specifically. I know Copilot covers a wide range of products, but for today, we're going to stick to Teams. Here's a high-level agenda. And now that people have had a chance to see what we have teed up for today, let's get started. For people new to the subject, we're just going to walk through what's available specific to Teams development today. First off, we have Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is a Microsoft offering that allows you to use Microsoft 365 Copilot as part of your Microsoft 365 service offering. It does cover all of the components of Microsoft 365, Microsoft Graph, and our foundational models. The Copilot stack allows you to bring in your own extensibility with plugins, graph connectors in the Teams AI library, and integrate that into the Microsoft Copilot offering or your own Copilots built using Azure OpenAI and the Teams AI library. What Microsoft can also add as part of the Microsoft Copilot offering is our foundational models, AI infrastructure, and AI orchestration, which exists within the Microsoft Cloud today. The other option to bring AI to your Teams environment is to build something using the Teams AI library. The Teams AI library is a development library that allows you to quickly build a Teams-enabled bot that is able to connect to the LLM or large language model of your choice. And that's how you bring AI in today. Later today, we're going to go over how this could work by connecting this to an Azure OpenAI large language model. Okay. Now that we know the two options available today, how do we know what we want to build and how we build it? This first video shows the Copilot experience available in Teams if you have a Copilot license today. Copilot in Teams generates summaries from content inside your Teams structure today, your meetings and your chats. The area in which you see your summary is not extensible today. And we'll see that experience here in just a couple seconds.
Copilot in Teams makes every meeting a productive one. Here, you're in a meeting with your team. You can ask Copilot to summarize what's happened so far. Copilot summarizes who said what and what points were made, capturing the spirit of the discussion. And as the meeting progresses, you can check in on where people stand. You can even ask Copilot what questions are unresolved. It is just amazing to see this happen in real time during a meeting.
Microsoft 365 Copilot also offers an extensible experience where you can bring in your own search-based message extensions, graph connectors, and plugins, which you may already have seen it build. Please check our Microsoft.com website for the full list of graph connectors that work today, and also tune in to Ignite to hear about more extensibility options that are coming soon. This extensibility option allows you to integrate your existing apps into the Microsoft 365 Copilot experience that we can see in this next video.
Business Chat works across all your data and apps to help you do things you've never been able to do before. Let's say you're preparing for a customer meeting. You start by asking Copilot to summarize all your recent customer interactions, meetings, content you've shared, any issues, and deliverables. Copilot works across your calendar, emails, chats, documents, and meetings to find all the pertinent information. Now you've got a concise summary, complete with citations. You can hover over the citations to verify sources or learn more. You know product lead times are likely to come up in the conversation, so you ask Copilot to help. Copilot combs through all your documents, meetings, emails, files, and company resources to get you what you need. With Copilot, you're always prepared.
So here's a quick table that shows you when you choose to extend what options you have and the best use cases for them. If you have an existing search-based message extension today, you can extend this to Copilot, which will then allow Microsoft 365 Copilot to read data from external systems, search for and retrieve information from indexed data sets and third-party clouds, and coming soon, perform actions on a user's behalf. I'll give people a few minutes to take a look at the slide. Again, this recording will be available after the fact, so you can always come back and cross-reference. Again, for the most up-to-date scenario to capability mapping, please do check our Microsoft.com website. This is a rapidly changing space. If Copilot extensibility isn't for you because you have an idea or some pre-built Azure OpenAI idea that you want to bring to your Teams AI. Either you have proprietary data sets or you have something specific you want to implement, Teams AI Library would be the solution for you. What's available today is conversational chat, message extensions, and invoking message actions. The feature team is continuing to add more feature richness as we go along. So please, again, check the GitHub repo for the latest on new changes and functionality. To talk a little bit more about how we build something with Teams AI Library, I'm going to pass the mic over to my counterpart, Ramesh, who's going to talk a little bit about what his team has already built and has working with customers. Over to you, Ramesh.
Is a personal assistant demo. And I want to caution and repeat the disclaimer. The demo contains information that are mocked up, that are not real. Want to make sure that it is very clear that the company names that may be real, but the demo, the content itself is mocked up. The personal assistant demo that you're going to see has multiple things that you're going to be interested in as you are developing Copilots and AI-based solutions in your organization. One is the ability for you to have your choice of model. Azure OpenAI gives you multiple models such as DaVinci, GPT 3.5 Turbo, GPT-4, or maybe Llama, or your own custom models that you can make use of. Microsoft Teams AI Library makes all these things very easy, including the choice of models and ability to orchestrate the various connections that you have in a solution. It also provides for ability to have chat history and things like that as part of it. It's a really it's a really wonderful tool for you to be able to use to jumpstart AI applications. Third, this demo uses a very common pattern that you would see in many of the AI applications, especially in OpenAI applications, which is called RAG. You may have heard of the term. RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation, where you're able to have your company documents, for example, be able to search them and use them as part of the input prompt into OpenAI. And fourthly, this demo also shows ability for you and your team's application to integrate with other company content that you may have, your organizational content. You can build that together. And lastly, you would be able to surface some of these content for a really good user experience using Adaptive Card. With that, I'm going to turn over to Danny Garber, who will be doing the demo along with me.
Thank you, Ramesh. And since you're my partner in crime, I'm going to ask you to help me to drive this demo as a colleague on the chat. So in just a few seconds, we'll share my screen. All right. So the scenario that we're going to present here is Ramesh and I, we're both members of the same organization. And Ramesh is going to get engaged with some of his customer later today as part of his meeting calendar. So Ramesh wanted to reach out to me to see if I have some supplementary information that will help him to drive his meetings. So I already see that Ramesh pinged me on Teams chat. And so just small talk away. We'll see what Ramesh is really want to ask me about it today. All right, so it seems like Ramesh is asking me if I have any latest information on Fidelity investment. I might have, but I think it's better if I just reply that actually I have a personal assistant that can help with that. So let's say, and I will engage now a personal assistant by specifying the name, it's FSI Copilot demo. I will say, please tell me about Fidelity. So that triggers Copilot, which will retrieve the information about the generic information from GPT around about the Fidelity investment. But because it also has proprietary data, which has, as Ramesh explained, is part of the retrieval augmented generations, it was able to pull out this data about the company, in this case, Fidelity Investment, that Ramesh is going to meet later on today, which should help Ramesh to prepare for that particular meeting. So Ramesh seems to be pleased with that response, and but he also wants to get some additional information, which is handily presented by Copilot. So Copilot suggested that there can be some additional follow-ups questions or prompts, and Ramesh wants to see if there's something else I can pull out from Copilot, which is what services that Fidelity Investments. So I'm going to click on this prompt. And in just a few seconds, the Copilot should be able to provide the answer to that question as well. As you can see, there's a question that was prompted, and pretty full response came back from Copilot. Now, Ramesh seems to have some other meetings, so he asked if I can get data on Google. Instead of asking Copilot in the chat, I can just use Teams feature, which is message extensions, and I can go into the message extension here, click on that, and start typing the name of the company that I want to look for. In this case, it's going to be a Google, so I just say something maybe starting with Google, and that should come back with a list of companies that matches that pattern. In this case, is the Google. So now I can click on the Google. And in just a moment, we get information on Google as was asked by Ramesh. Again, there's some prompts generated by Copilot if I want to get some additional information. But Ramesh really wants to see if there's a way I can interact directly with Copilot. So yeah, so let's see what is that we can do. Let's just go directly to the Copilot. I'll just click on Copilot, which is pinned to my Teams. It's called FSI Copilot. So now I'm in the conversation with FSI Copilot, and I can start a conversation directly. I don't need to read or ask permissions. I can just ask questions right away. So for example, I can ask, what is the history of the Microsoft? And sure enough, I get the information what the Microsoft Corporation, when it was founded, and the brief history of the company. But also another thing is that not only that Copilot can respond to direct questions, it also remembers the conversation's history. So it's like in the normal conversations, we rarely going back to mentioning the names or facts that we started the conversation with. We can just follow up, like in this example, I can say, well, since we're talking about Microsoft, now I want to know who was its founder. So I'm not specifically saying Microsoft. And the Copilot should be able to understand that we're talking about Microsoft and should respond appropriately. And sure enough, we get the answer coming back. And Copilot is so polite that it's offering me to see if I have some additional information related to financial aspects of companies that we work with. So at that point, I think that's going to conclude our demo. And we can move to the next slide. Okay, so you just saw the demo that demonstrated some functionality of personal assistant that leverages LLM model of Azure OpenAI as well as the Teams AI library. And in this diagram, in this architecture diagram, you can see essentially the connectivity between different components of these applications. From the left side, you see the end user prompting Teams chatbot through the chat in the Teams applications with the questions that those questions are naturally understood. By the way, seamlessly, you can ask Teams on different languages, and you don't need to translate it in English. It understands many languages. And so once that prompt is taken, the Teams AI library, which is embedded inside of that Copilot, is capable of understanding different intents that this user has. For example, when the generic question is asked, it can go directly into the ChatGPT LLM model and provide back the response. But if the question has some specific information, like in this demo you saw, we asked about Fidelity or Google, the Teams AI library is using the prompt engineering that was provided by developer and the augmented data that was indexed through Azure Cognitive Search, which was essentially the data that we had internally, say in organizations, maybe PDF files, maybe the Excel spreadsheets, there could be some unstructured raw data that was uploaded into Azure Data Fabric, that the Azure Cognitive Search Service has capability to index that and provide as the additional prompt into the LLM model that Teams AI library uses here. And for that, you were able to see the adaptive car coming with some potentially proprietary data, which again, it was mocked up in this demo, but you can easily draw some parallels and fill the dots in between if you have some proprietary data that you would like to make it as part of the Azure OpenAI and Teams AI library conversations. And so that's sort of like not in a nutshell, what that demo does, or what in general the Teams AI library can do. And back to you, Eunice.
Thank you, Danny. Another common scenario that has come up very frequently with our customers that have started building AI in Teams, and I believe we have a related question in chat actually, is how do we make sure that our interactions or the inputs that we give to our AI remain within a certain boundary? When you leverage Azure OpenAI, you maintain control to the Azure OpenAI instance and the LLM, meaning you can set the appropriate rules and boundaries that you choose to apply. However, within an organization, there are sometimes subgroups that want to make sure that their information remains contained inside the subgroup as well. One concept that is a common design pattern is to use a team, a Microsoft team, as your boundary. In this scenario, we are using the team as the container because all members of the team can see all of the content in all of your channels which makes it the logical choice to set that boundary. Architecturally, you can choose to apply a database that maps the team and the LLM to the document storage that backs the team, meaning you can restrict responses inside that team to documentation that's associated with the team, and also make sure that other interactions with your LLM model can't ever see that information as well. This is done using user-based access and resource-specific consent. And the table's used to map basically which documents belong to which team. This works with native Teams membership and controls, meaning that any policies you have in place today already for DLP, chat retention, e-discovery, membership controls, reporting of who's in which team, continue to apply, and it delivers an easy to understand experience. We're in the process of exploring implementing this with more customers. For detailed architecture and next steps, please reach out to your CPM. We also have a form at the end of this presentation that you can fill out for more information and to indicate your interest in the GPT in a box scenario. Move on into our next steps. Try building your very own Teams AI library to repeat the success that you've seen in the demo. We've included a link to build your first app using the Teams AI library. There are code samples both for the chat interaction and for the message extension. I think we'll be copying the links over to the chat here in a few seconds if you don't see them just yet. You can also learn more about Microsoft 365 Copilot extensibility. All of the options available to you or that will be available to you is in that link. Continue to check back there for the most up-to-date information. What is available today is your search-based message extension, as well as a core set of graph connectors. If you're interested in extending your line of business message extension to Copilot, again, fill out the form or reach out to your CPM for more information. If you're a developer and you want to develop a plugin that works with Copilot, there is an early access program, third link on the slide. And lastly, as mentioned, we do have a form if you're interested in the architecture and the implementation about GPT in the box. Please go ahead and provide your contact information. Last call to action here before we head over into questions and open discussion. If you have a project you'd like to jumpstart in partnership with Teams Engineering, we have limited seats to enable you and your organization to bring your GPT, your enterprise-grade GPT, to production. Reach out to your Microsoft account team who will engage Teams Engineering. I think we've allotted some time for questions and follow-up, but again, to everyone who's taken the time to join today, thank you very much for attending. I will go ahead and bring up that QR code for the feedback form again so people can scan it if they get a chance. And I think we can have people come off mute for questions or triage questions in the chat.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. And thank you so much, Eunice, Ramesh, and Danny, for this very interesting and informative presentation. So we've got 8 questions. I think we can just sort of tackle them from top to bottom, if that would be okay with everyone. We could maybe skip around a little bit as we answer maybe more than one question and a response. The first question was, is Copilot available for GCC? What about GCC High and DoD?
Thanks, Bill. It is not available for GCC High and GCC High and DoD clouds today. I think we can follow up on getting some public information posted to the GovCloud documents page.
Is Copilot part of Teams Premium an added cost, or is it included in E5 or G5 licenses?
Okay. So Copilot is not part of Teams Premium, and it is not is not part of your existing E5 G5 license today. For specifics around licensing, please reach out to your account team referencing the early access program for Copilot.
What features being demoed are available in GCC? When will those not currently available be available?
Yep, that's a great question. So the Azure OpenAI is available to customers in GCC, and we do have guidance for customers in GCC High and DoD for consuming Azure OpenAI from a GCC High or DoD tenant. Links will be in the chat for guidance for the secure clouds. What that means is that the Teams AI library and GPT in the box builds are possible in GovClouds today.
Thank you. Excellent. Can we restrict Copilot to perform search within an org, keeping security in mind? And in a follow-up, can the restriction be smaller than the size of the tenant? Can the boundary be smaller than the tenant?
Okay. So my answer will be specific to what's available today. Copilot will honor your existing security and role-based access permissions today. What that means is when you perform a search in Copilot, it will respect your user level access to documents, your email, and your applications and your plugins. Meaning if you were able to see that document already with your existing permissions without Copilot in play, the same is still true. And if you were not, again, the same is still true.
Are there plans to format the output of Copilot? It's too bulky, and I'd rather just enter that query into a search engine that provides the information in a more readable format.
The short answer is yes. Copilot is still very much an evolving topic here. We're definitely interested in improving the experience for all users, and our teams are, looking at user feedback. So you have the thumbs up or the thumbs down bottom on your Copilot experience, or you have the little report feedback button. Please do fill that out. That's very valuable for our teams to know because we want to make a product that works for you.
All right. 6, for data injection from a PDF repository, can this source originate in SharePoint?
I might need some clarification here. Was the question specific to Copilot or to the Teams AI library?
Let's assume it's specific to Copilot.
Okay.
How would you answer the question in that scenario?
I will speak a little bit, and I'll give Danny and Ramesh a chance to jump in here on the technical questions. So for Microsoft 365 Copilot, you will be able to search files that are stored inside SharePoint. Again, this semantic search follows whatever rules you already have in place. So if you're instructing the Microsoft 365 Copilot to go search for documents with title, AI Fast Start, and you happen to have that PDF in a SharePoint location you have access to, those results will definitely be returned. For the Azure Open AI builds, there are a couple of common build patterns today. Azure OpenAI now has in preview the ability to ingest PDF documents into the model itself. We'll provide links here in just a couple seconds because I cannot talk and find a link at the same time. That is one method of doing it. It has pros and cons in terms of how the model responds and the performance and your costs. The other common pattern that's in use today is to use the large language model to search a repository. In that case, yes, you can go ahead and point that search attempt at a SharePoint location. You will need to do some code work to handle the authentication, but you can also do code work to point that at really any document repository that's accessible via a public API or an API that's visible to your LLM models or some sort of private connection. Since this is a technical question, Danny, do you have any thoughts on this, or Ramesh?
And I'm going to add in, Danny, if I could further elucidate, the question was about the AI library.
I think, Eunice, you answered probably more technically than I would be able to do it. I think your answer is fully covers the response, but I will highlight again, Teams AI library is the engine that allows you to build a connectivity with the OpenAI. Regarding the ingestions of documents from a variety of sources goes beyond the Teams AI boundaries. So whatever technology you use for that, whether you like Eunice mentioned, you can upload it directly through Azure OpenAI Studio Preview, or you use the search mechanisms. That's your choice, and then the Teams AI library will be able to leverage that RAC data for forming up right prompt and getting the response back from the LLM back to the user.
Next question. Can you restrict the egress of data/questions sent from Teams AI library to externally hosted AI models? In other words, will you be able to block questions that could be sent to an endpoint external to your organization?
The short answer is yes. So the network path flows from Teams to your bot endpoint, which is the registration you create in your Azure Active Directory portal. Since you control the bot endpoint, in order to do that, we recommend that endpoint be received on an application service or web service that you own. You can apply code to moderate, filter, and then do inline interception of any prompts that are sent to your bot before you relay them to any external services. Specific to the Teams AI library, again, there are a couple of pre-built functions such as moderator that will help you do that more easily, but it's not strictly necessary for you to follow that route.
Thank you. Next question. How would an enterprise go gather all the content created for purposes FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, or litigation?
Oh, that is a very complex question. Again, I'll talk about what we know today. I'll talk about common patterns that we have today. Typically, enterprises have an idea or an understanding of where all of the in-scope content exists. This could be a SharePoint location, or a document repository, or some sort of audit log location. Depending on the source of the data, what you will need is some way for your custom-built AI library solution or for Microsoft 365 Copilot to make queries against that content. Again, we come back to this concept of two possible architectures that are very common today. One is you try and ingest all of that content into your large language model, which again has performance and cost consequences, especially when you're talking about large amounts of data. The other option to you is to leverage semantic kernel or other forms of AI to build a searchable index and then expose that search API to your Teams AI library or Microsoft 365 Copilot extension to return, again, searches with a link to that reference document for your view. Those are the two most common models today. So hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you, Eunice. Next question. Where does Copilot get the information from? I like how broad that is.
It is very broad. So again, I'm going to preface this. I'm going to talk very specifically about Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is part of your Microsoft 365 service offering. Microsoft 365 Copilot gets information from Microsoft 365, which is everything that exists in your Microsoft 365 tenants boundaries today. Should you choose to approve an app that connects to external data sources in the Teams App Store or your Microsoft 365 Enhanced App Store, then Microsoft 365 Copilot will be able to go get information from those external sources. But that only happens if you choose to approve that particular app connector or external path.
So again, Danny and Ramesh, feel free to jump in if you want to further elucidate. We've got another really broad question. I love this one. How abstract can one be when asking Copilot questions and expect a rational answer? I'd say at least that abstract, at least
Very
as abstract as
abstract.
the question. But
I kind of think I need a degree in philosophy to answer this one, Bill.
yeah, it's an
That is-
interesting one.
That is always follow-up abstract questions as well, available for you.
So trial and error is probably the best way to figure out that border line for any particular category. I mean, it really comes down to the taxonomy underlying the model, and different models will have more advanced taxonomies based on how the model's been trained. So it depends on the subject area. Certain subject areas, you can be quite abstract. Other subject areas, response will be bounded by the level of understanding the model can generate based on the data available to it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that, in addition to what Bill said, it's really important. This is one where you have to frame the questions correctly in a way to elicit the best answer. So you want to make sure that the questions are formatted in a way that suits your business purpose that you're going to do. So you can be abstract, but also the more pointed you are, the better are going to be your results.
Richard had a great comment, which is emphasized the concept of prompt engineering. The better you instruct it, the better responses you'll get. Working on Bing, we had this concept of Binglish, which is amalgamation of Bing and English. And I think we've all become comfortable with using specific verbs and nouns that we know will differentiate our question from similar questions so that search engines will respond appropriately. What we're talking about with this presentation today is very similar in terms of over time, your users will develop a sense for what key terms they may need in a query in order to generate a more rational or helpful, useful response.
Right. There's a whole new discipline is evolving, which is called prompt engineering. So to properly make the prompts that will help to get the answers, the appropriate answers and direct answers to your prompts is something that goes beyond just what's the abstract questions you want to ask. There's a concept of prompt chaining, meaning that you ask Copilot to give you the best prompt for your next question that will come in. So that's how you create the chain of prompts, and finally you get the prompt that you can use for your own Teams AI library or other Copilot that you built.
One thing I would also add in this is keep in mind as you're creating these new prompts and expecting an answer, make sure that you have a framework to evaluate the response. It's really, really important to make sure that you have metrics on your prompts and the response that you get from it and how they match up.
Yep, that's a really strong point. One of the best practices that we call out, but I'll say again, is when you're evaluating your prompts, it is critical to have both positive and negative test sets, meaning that you want to ensure that you include use cases where the large language model or AI actually says no when it's supposed to say no, in addition to saying yes when it should be saying yes. The analogy I will use or fall back on is that large language models are like a hyper intelligent Labrador retriever with people pleasing set to like 1,000,000%. It doesn't have an understanding of what you've told it to do, but it will do its absolute best to do it to the best of its ability. And so if you're not specific with your ask and you ask it to go fetch you a shoe, it might bring you your shoe, it might bring you one shoe, it might bring you a random person's shoe, it might steal a shoe from a store, and all of those things are kind of problems. So again, it doesn't understand the context. It doesn't have an deeper understanding of what you're instructing it to do, but it absolutely, because people pleasing is set to 1,000,000%, it'll just go out and do it anyway. And that's one of the finer points around prompt engineering and the discipline around it.
Thank you, Eunice. Tamara Rex said that was the best description ever. So you're getting kudos from the audience. Thank you. The last question. Does Copilot run on all platforms?
I'm going to provide a very, very evasive answer. We can speak specifically to Microsoft 365 Copilot and also Copilot in Teams. It runs in Teams. If you've attended our build presentations and also upcoming at night, you know there have been announcements for Copilots in Power Apps. You know there have been announcements for Copilot in the Office suite, including Microsoft Word. For the most up-to-date news on which of these are ready to consume, again, I encourage you to go back to our Microsoft.com page because that list changes very rapidly. I know it's an evasive answer.
Well, thank you all very much. Eunice, Ramesh, Danny, all the audience participants with their excellent and sometimes philosophical questions. I really appreciate it. And I just want to emphasize that this is an exciting area. Just seeing all the questions back and forth. I know many of you in the audience are sharing our enthusiasm. Feel free to share this recording with your colleagues and the next steps in terms of filling out these forms, applying for Copilot, learning more about how to use the AI library and to use Microsoft 365 Copilot extensibility. I will be following up with the recording link as well as the Copilot summary of our presentation today. But I want to serve as a call to action that there is an opportunity for a handful of the people who are listening to us today to participate in a collaborative effort with the likes of Eunice and Danny and Ramesh and create something for your organization, for your users to start to take advantage of the amazing capabilities of AI integrated into your line of business applications in Teams. Seize this opportunity, get sponsorship within your organizations, and come back to your Microsoft account teams, as well as following up with the form here so that we can work together. Again, this isn't for everybody, but for a limited set of people, for a limited time period. If you're interested in publicly talking about the advances you've made using our technology integrated into Teams, we want to work with you, and we look forward to hearing from many of you and figuring out what we can do together in the next few months to improve the experience of your users and to advance the goals of your organization using this new technology. Before signing off, anything else, Eunice, Ramesh, or Danny?
Thank you. Thanks to everyone. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and to learn from you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again. Thank you to my amazing and wonderful co-presenters and team. It takes a village. I'm really excited to be here with both my working team and our customers. on the leading edge of something that's generated so much excitement. I don't remember the last time I've seen this much excitement in technology. I'm super excited to be here. I'm super excited. You're excited, and I hope to hear from some of you.
Great. Thank you all very much.